Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Today we're continuing our ongoing coverage of the war between the Russian Federation and the Ukraine. In today's news, we are receiving reports that the possible future Trump administration is looking for a way to pressure the Ukraine to have a sit-down with leadership in the Kremlin and try to resolve this ongoing conflict. If the powers that be in Kiev do not sit down, then the Ukrainians face the prospect of greatly reduced U.S. military aid, possibly the complete elimination of U.S. aid. Now, more importantly, financial aid. Cutting off the spigot that allows Volodymyr Zelensky's government to continue to operate. Look, what you have in the Ukraine is one of the most corrupt, if not the most corrupt government in all of Europe. Eastern and Western Europe, there is no other country more corrupt than the Ukraine. Okay? Now, the government of Zelensky is only in power right now because of the United States and the European Union. That spigot of money is turned on, which allows him to flourish. It allows him to suspend the Ukrainian constitution. It allows him to suspend the election process in the Ukraine. Most of the uninformed urbanites here in the United States are not even aware that Volodymyr Zelensky has suspended the Ukrainian constitution. He has suspended the election process in the Ukraine. Right now, the borderlands, is under autocratic rule. It is under authoritarian rule. It is not a democracy. It is not this beacon of democracy. Were there democratic principles at one point in the Ukraine? One could argue that. But that is not the case now. Believe you me, that is not the case. Now, another big issue that is happening right now is the weapons that are being used. The U.S. authorized, quote-unquote, authorized the ATACMS, this long-range semi-ballistic missile. It's a ground-launched ballistic missile. You can do your own research on the system. I'm not going to do a deep dive into the ATACMS, but it's usually launched with the current HIMARS systems or the multiple launch rocket system, the tracked variant. Now, the Russians, let me back up. The United States knows that the Russians know that the targeting data and the launch information that is being transmitted to the Ukrainians to launch these systems against Russian targets is coming from the United States. The ATACMS strikes on targets inside of Russia would not and could not happen without the authorization of the Department of Defense and Central Intelligence Agency. Absolutely. Beyond a shadow of a doubt, these strikes could not occur. These are very high-end, strategic, semi-strategic weapon systems. You can't get much more advanced in terms of weapon systems that the United States is handing over, with the exception of getting into classified, low observable multi-role fighter aircraft. That would logically be the next step for the United States to hand over to the Ukrainians. That would probably be F-35s to be handed over and operate by quote-unquote Ukrainian pilots, probably operating out of Western air bases such as Poland and Romania. And then I think we all know where that eventually ends. What then happens if that in fact occurs. Now in terms of kind of circling back to this Trump administration peace plan, this design to end the war, the powers that be, the non-governmental actors that changed the government back in 2014 inside of the Ukraine, the powers that be that also, unfortunately, we believe at this point, control the voting process. And it is our belief that because Joseph Biden is so incompetent, is so glaringly incompetent, not just from a decision-making process. Look, we can go back 25, 30 years. We can go back to the early 80s and listen and watch incompetent statements from Joseph Biden. But not only that, it is his mental capacity. His mental capacity is greatly degraded. So you have what was already a fairly incompetent, untruthful, low integrity person who does not have all his faculties. And inside the circles of the Beltway, inside the Central Intelligence Agency, inside these large agencies of the United States, they are aware. They are aware that he is not fit to be the leader, to be the president of the United States. But the puppet masters right now are running the country, running the United States. And they're not really worried about what that optic looks like in terms of just how bad Joseph Biden presents himself. In any other period of history, think about that. If we go back in time and we look at other elections, and we were to place Joseph Biden in that position of running against another candidate in past history, there's no way he wins. Zero. Zilch. Not possible. The only way I fear this is possible now is because the vote is being controlled through this electronic voting process. And more importantly, the ability in multifaceted ways the vote occurs inside of the United States now. It's just not going to a polling place, a verified polling place and voting. It's much more complicated than that. Hundreds of millions of mail-in ballots are sent out across the United States. And we have cases in many states across the disunited states of America in which one single person hand delivers batches upon batches of ballots. And therein lies the issue. The optic of Joseph Biden as being so bad and so terrible is irrelevant, because I fear the vote is being controlled. And it doesn't matter how bad he looks. And if I talked about this before, the rationale behind that is he is simply a figurehead. And those neo-leftists that now run the country here in the United States are able to do what they want to do. They are able to target political opponents, send political opponents to jail, and the future-facing prospect of creating this unitary one-party state. And it's happening. I've talked about the possible end to the constitutional republic. It's happening. You're watching it. The founding fathers had said, you have it, now try and keep it. You have it, now try and keep it. And unfortunately, we have entered the phase now, the stage in our former constitutional republic of a unitary quote-unquote democracy that will evolve into a tyrannical unitary one-party state. And usually large wars usher in tyranny. Because during large wars, large military campaigns, governments are given much more power than they would normally have during peacetime. So as we head towards this cataclysmic war between the largest military alliance in human history, the alliance of the Sino-Russian, North Korean, Iranian military alliance. Folks, we could be heading towards the largest military conflict in human history. A military conflict that will make World War II look mediocre. And we're heading in that direction right now. It's happening. You're watching it. But unfortunately, here in the United States, most of the quote-unquote uninformed urbanites are busy watching what Kim Kardashian and Taylor Swift are doing. That is the big concern. Or they're watching what their football team, their baseball team, or their basketball team is doing. They have no idea what's happening in the world and in the halls of power here in the United States. You have it, now keep it. Unfortunately, it does not look like we're going to keep it. More to come. As always, thank you for joining us. Have a good day.